Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Thursday, August 18th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet. And don't forget, you can use the code AUG15, that's AUG15, to save 15% at checkout. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Thursday, August 18th. First up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Antonio Senzatella and Adam Wainwright are your projected starters. It's really tough to back Senzatella and the Rockies in this one, even though they have improved their games against righties offensively in the last month or so, even on the road. But Antonio Senzatella has not pitched well on the road this year, 0-4 with a 5.5 ERA, overall 3-6 with a 4.67 ERA, and giving up a lot of base runners, a 1.65 whip, gives up a lot of base hits. Has been walking some batters recently as well. Has always the susceptibility to the home run ball as well, and doesn't strike out a lot of guys. So the Cardinals, they've been hitting righties, they've been hitting lefties. They don't strike out much as a team. I think they'll be able to get to Senzatella for at least a few runs, and they'll be able to attack a pretty weak Rockies bullpen as well. On the other side, Adam Wainwright's been a little bit inconsistent lately. A couple starts ago against the Yankees, he really struggled, but then he bounced back in a big way against a tough Brewers lineup. He threw 9 innings of 1-run ball. Now, the Cardinals did lose that game in the end, but it wasn't because of Wainwright. He had 8 strikeouts in that one of his best starts of the season. He's been pitching well at Busch Stadium overall this year, 2.3 ERA at home this season. I think he's good enough here for a Cardinals win and a run line cover. Give me the Cardinals here, minus the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Oakland A's taking on the Texas Rangers. We're going to see Zach Logue and Dane Dunning as your starters. Now, Zach Logue is a lefty, and I do worry about taking lefties in Texas this year. The Rangers have been great against left-handed pitching offensively at home this season, and that includes the last 30 days. And Zach Logue is struggling on the mound, especially on the road, a 6.14 ERA away from home in 22 road innings. He's faced this Rangers lineup once. That was in Oakland back on May 28th, and it was an 11-4 Rangers win. They got to Logue early and often, 2 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 homers allowed by Logue in that game. In the last 5 starts that Logue has had, 4 of those were losses for the Oakland A's, and the last 3 of those losses were all run line losses, and they were by considerable margins, 8-0, 7-2, and 11-4. So I think the Rangers get to Logue here for plenty of runs. I think they'll add a few on this pretty weak A's bullpen. And although I don't love the Rangers bullpen, I think it's one of the weaker in the American League. I still think Dane Dunning's going to give the Rangers 5, 6, maybe even more strong innings. The Oakland A's offense against righties, not the strongest. And Dane Dunning's been pretty good at home this year, 3.23 ERA. Now, his last start, he struggled in the early innings against the Mariners. It looked like he was going to have an early exit. But he was able to give the Rangers 4 1/3, 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, and that was good enough for the Rangers to win that game. In fact, the last 3 starts that Dunning has had, all victories for the Rangers, and all by more than 1 run. Give me the Texas Rangers here on the run line. Next up, we see Luis Garcia and the Houston Astros taking on Lucas Giolito and the Chicago White Sox. And we're going to see a 2:10 Eastern start time here at Guaranteed Rate Field. Luis Garcia is struggling a bit. His ERA right now above 4 on the year after a really strong start to 2022. You look at his last 4 outings, he's given up at least 4 earned runs in 3 of those 4 starts. The other one, he gave up 3 earned runs in 3 of his last 4. The Astros have lost the game outright. So even though he's been able to pitch 6 innings, 7 innings, he's still giving up a lot of base hits. 8 base hits allowed to the A's, 9 to the Guardians a couple starts ago. And the home runs are always still a worry for Garcia. He's given up 18 already this season. So I do think the White Sox, the lineup doesn't really strike out much, and they've been improving against right-handed pitching. In fact, top 10 in team OPS against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days, Chicago is. So I think they'll be able to get on the board against Garcia, even if he goes 6, 7 innings. On the other side, Lucas Giolito, I don't know how he went 7 innings in his last start, but somehow he was able to go 7 against the Tigers. It was a really rough start for him, giving up a lot of runs. It seemed like every inning, at least a chance for the Detroit Tigers to score. And we know the Tigers' offense not great, especially on the road. That was on the road for Detroit, and they still have put up 4 runs on Giolito, 8 base hits. And he's been inconsistent this year. His ERA is now below 5, so 4.92, but at home a 5.86 ERA. I know the Astros' numbers against righties haven't been the best in the last month, but Giolito is still hanging pitches over the plate. He's missing inside and outside the zone because he's walking a lot of batters as well. I just don't love this spot for him. I can see the Astros getting to him early and often. Give me the over in this Astros-White Sox game. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Andrew Heaney and Corbin Burnes are your projected starters. It is really tough to take the Milwaukee Brewers, even with Corbin Burnes on the mound, when they're facing a left-handed pitcher. It's just been a struggle this year for Milwaukee against lefties this year, and in the last 30 days especially, where they're ranked 28th in isolated power against lefties and 28th in team OPS. They also have the fourth highest strikeout rate at 28.5% in the last month against those lefties. And Andrew Heaney, has he had the largest sample size this year with his new club? No. He's been injured for most of the year, so he's only had 31 innings pitched. But in those innings, he's only given up one home run. He's got 42 strikeouts, a 1.16 ERA. I think he's good enough here. And the Dodgers bats, even though they're facing Corbin Burnes, it is really tough to shut out this Dodgers lineup. We saw Brandon Woodruff have 4 really strong innings, and then a couple of home runs later, the game was tied, and it was a competitive game. The Dodgers are always going to seem to be competitive, even if they don't have an advantage on the mound, which you could say they don't here. But Andrew Heaney's been sharp. Corbin Burnes has been giving up at least one earned run in each of his last 5 starts, which is obviously not that bad, but for an ace. But when you're facing the Dodgers, that one earned run could be the difference maker here. I expect a pretty low-scoring game. I'd lean towards the under, but I do like the Dodgers to win this game in the end. Give me the LA Dodgers on the money line. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Chicago Cubs. Adrian Sampson and Spencer Watkins are your starters. Now, there's no doubt that the Orioles have the advantage when it comes to the bullpens. In the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, the Orioles should have a clear advantage, and even if they're down in the early innings of this game, they could be able to come back and win the game outright. I think the Cubs have the weakest bullpen in baseball right now. Orioles, one of the big reasons why they've been able to surge this season is because of their pen, but when you look at the starting pitching matchup, I actually think the advantage goes to Chicago. And you look at a pretty tough travel spot here for Baltimore. Now, both teams have to travel. They both played on Wednesday, but Baltimore coming from Toronto, so they have to cross the border with COVID protocols. A little bit tricky. We could see some sluggish bats here early on, at least. And Adrian Sampson hasn't been too bad this year. 3.88 ERA for Chicago, coming off a pretty good start against the Reds, where he went 4 innings, 6 strikeouts, and only 2 earned runs allowed. And I think that would be enough for the Cubs to compete and take a lead, or at least be tied with the Orioles through the first 5. When you look at Spencer Watkins, his last 8 1/3 innings pitched, he's starting to regress quite a bit against below-average lineups against righties in the Rays and the Pirates. He's given up 7 earned runs in those 8 1/3, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a home run, 10 base hits. So not as many strikeouts per inning. We're seeing ERA shoot up now to over 4, where it was below 4 for quite some time to start the year. And the Cubs' numbers against right-handed pitching have been pretty good in the last 30 days, especially on the road. But when you look at team OPS and isolated power, both in the top 15 overall in the last 30 days, number 7 in team OPS on the road and against righties in the last month. So I like the Cubs' offense to score a few on Spencer Watkins, and I think the Orioles may start out a little bit slow in this game. I'm going to take the first 5 and take the half a run, as the Cubs are still the underdog in this game. Give me Chicago plus the half a run through the first 5. In our next game, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the San Francisco Giants. Really good pitching matchup we see here in Zach Gallen versus Logan Webb. And I've been really impressed with both of these starting pitchers recently. Zach Gallen, his last 5 starts, 3 earned runs or less allowed in all 5 of those starts, and all wins for the D-backs, including a start against the San Francisco Giants. His last 2 outings were both shutout performances through 7 innings apiece against the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Colorado Rockies, and that Rocky start was in Coors Field, so that we know that it's a very difficult thing to do. He only gave up 2 base hits and a walk with 6 Ks through 7 scoreless innings. He has been impressive, and we know the Giants' bats have not been very good against righties in the last month or so, so I think Gallen pitches well here, but on the other side, I think Logan Webb has a good start as well. You look at his last 2 outings against the Pirates and A's, so pretty weak lineups, but a 29-10 ground ball to fly ball ratio allowed by Webb in those 2 starts. That's what I want to see from Logan Webb. He's a ground ball pitcher. He got away from that at one point where he was struggling against the Dodgers. It was a 10-10 ratio. He was giving up a lot more fly balls than we were used to seeing, and he was getting burned. He was giving up some home runs, some sharp contact. But his last 2 starts, he's only given up 2 earned runs in his last 15 innings combined. He's actually had some strikeouts as well, so if you're able to get those ground ball outs, get those double plays, and then add some strikeouts into your repertoire, you're going to be dangerous on the mound. And Logan Webb has just been like that. 2-0 win in his last start against the Pirates. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I really don't know who's going to win this game, but I like the under. I think we see both pitchers show up here. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates with JT Brubaker and Nathan Eovaldi as your projected starters for now, but no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. JT Brubaker was originally projected to go on Wednesday against the Sox, but he was scratched for Rowanzi Contreras. We'll see if he does get the start in this one, but as of late, he just hasn't been the same pitcher. A 4.45 ERA now on the season. He's given up a lot of base hits recently. His last start against the D-backs wasn't bad, but he's only able to go 5 innings. He still gave up a home run, 2 earned, 2 walks. He's given up at least 2 walks in 4 of his last 5 starts, and he also hasn't really faced the toughest of lineups, the Marlins, the Cubs, the Orioles, the D-backs. So I do think the Red Sox lineup is better than most of those teams. I would say only the Orioles would have the better numbers against righties this season, and I think the Red Sox will be able to get to Brubaker early and often here. And the Pirates bullpen just not really trustworthy this season, and also the Pirates lineup not great this year. And Nathan Eovaldi's been inconsistent. He's had really great starts. He's had awful starts where it's been hard to watch, but his last start against the Yankees, 6 innings, 2 earned runs. It was good enough for a Red Sox win. They did win that game in extra innings, so he didn't have the decision in that one. But a tough Yankees lineup, he pitched well. A couple starts back, he faced the Astros, 6 innings, 6 1/3 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and another Red Sox win. So inconsistencies have been there, but I still think Eovaldi's the much better option. I trust the Red Sox lineup and their bullpen. Even though it struggled, I think it's much better than the Pirates. Give me the Boston Red Sox here. I lean towards the under as well, but I'll take the Red Sox on the money line. In our next game, we see the New York Yankees hosting the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Barrios and Frankie Montas are your projected starters. Now, it has not been an easy second half of the season for Yankee fans this year. It's been a tough one to watch. They have been one of the worst teams in the American League since the All-Star break ended, and they've been struggling against right-handed pitching. We know Matt Carpenter out of the lineup for what looks like the rest of the year. We'll have to see if that's official. Giancarlo Stanton's still out of the lineup. Aaron Hicks has been one of the worst position players in baseball this year. It's been frustrating to watch if you're a Yankee fan. Even the bullpen has not really gotten it done lately. Clayton Holmes really struggling on the mound, so it's not been easy times for Yankees fans or the Yankees in general, but going back home here, facing Jose Barrios, I think this is a really good spot to break out for the Yankees. I have to take him here on the money line. I just cannot trust Jose Barrios, especially on the road. When you look at his numbers overall, a 5.61 ERA this season, but on the road, he's 2-4 with a 7.50 ERA in 54 innings pitched. He's given up 15 home runs, a 316 opponent's batting average, and now you're pitching at Yankee Stadium, one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in the American League East. It is a tough spot here for Barrios, coming off a start against the Guardians where he gave up 8 earned runs, 2 homers, and 4 innings pitched. His last 7 2/3 innings, 13 earned runs allowed with 4 home runs. I can't trust him, even though the Yankees have been as bad as they've been. I have to trust Frankie Montas here more than Barrios, and I think the Yankees bats can get to Barrios enough to win this game. So give me the Yankees here on the money line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, we don't have an official lineup for this game. The Rays look like they're going to be starting Shane McClanahan, but there's no official announcement for this starter quite yet, so we'll have to wait and see if he is the guy. I do believe he will be. Brad Keller going for the Royals on the other side. Now, the Royals, they do have pretty good numbers team OPS-wise against lefties if they do face McClanahan, but they don't have the best numbers strikeout-wise in terms of the pretty high strikeout rate as a team, and their isolated power numbers are not there. And really, the way to beat Shane McClanahan in his career thus far has been the home run ball. He's been susceptible to the home run ball. He's a power pitcher, so really good velocity. Doesn't really miss inside the zone much, but when he does, it's usually a fastball down the middle, and teams can take advantage of that for a long ball. But since the Royals don't really have that kind of power lineup in them, I don't think they're going to be able to do much damage against McClanahan. And on the other side, Brad Keller, not my favorite option to back, especially in a road start here. His last start against the Dodgers was tough to watch. 3 innings, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 home runs. He's given up at least 1 homer in each of his last 3 outings. The strikeout numbers are down. The base hits are way, way up. And I think the Rays will get to him enough to win this game going away. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays here. Even if McClanahan's not on the mound, I like him to win this game in the run line. I just don't love Brad Keller in this spot. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Atlanta Braves. Another game where, unfortunately, we don't have a line because the Braves have not announced a starter now. I'm not sure who they're going to be going with here. We should see Jacob deGrom for the Mets, and we know it's tough to fade Jacob deGrom, especially with the start he's had to his season. Hasn't had a lot of work this year because he was injured for most of the season thus far, but 16 2/3 innings pitched now and a 1.62 ERA with 28 strikeouts in 16 2/3 innings. He's been unbelievable. His last 2 starts against the Braves and the Phillies were both wins by the Mets. Pretty tough lineups and NL East rivals. And in those 11 2/3 innings, he had 22 strikeouts and only 2 earned runs allowed. And against the Braves, he gave up those 2 earned runs. It was a home run by Dansby Swanson, but DeGrom was perfect, I believe, through 5 innings pitched. He gave up a walk and a homer, and that ended his night, but he was outstanding in that game, and I think he'll be pretty good in this spot as well. The Mets could use a win here on the road after a sluggish start to this series. Give me the New York Mets here on the money line. And in our final game of the night, we don't really see the most exciting contest. It's the Nationals and the Padres with Anibal Sanchez and Yu Darvish on the mound. You want to talk about juice, you're going to be laying minus 360 if you want to take the Padres on the money line. You'll be getting plus 300 if you want to take the Nats on the money line, but this is the type of game where I just don't think there's any value at all. I think the Padres are going to win this game, and I could see them winning it by quite a large margin, but even laying the run line, even laying 2.5 runs, you'll be laying negative odds and quite a large negative odd price as well on the minus 1.5, and it's just no value in my opinion, especially with the home team. And we saw Anibal Sanchez, he did not pitch well against the Padres, but the Nationals still won that game in his last start, 4-3. That was one of the bigger upset wins of the last couple of weeks. And Sanchez, he's given up at least 2 home runs in 3 of his last 4, at least 1 home run in each of his last 5. He's walking a lot of batters. He's not striking out many guys. He's giving up a ton of base hits. He's not pitching deep into games, so the bullpen's going to have to get a lot of work, and I don't really love that with this Nationals pen. This is just not a good spot here for the Nationals, and their offense hasn't been great either. They didn't do much offensively against the Chicago Cubs, and that's a lineup that you need to score against. I think they have the weakest bullpen in baseball, so this Nationals team going on the road, I don't love their chances against Yu Darvish. I don't think they do much of anything offensively. I think the Padres can score plenty early on in this game. You may think maybe this is a look-ahead spot. I know this is going to be a series, so you're going to have to face the Nationals 4 straight times, but sometimes teams take their foot off the pedal when they know they've got a really good chance of winning the game, don't really have to play as hard as they normally would. So, in that case, this is a game where I'm probably staying away from just based on value alone, but if I had to choose, I'll take the San Diego Padres and lay the 1.5 runs. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday, August 18th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.